because we had passed 380 billion Kenya shillings. But, Honorable Speaker, this figure also is higher than what is required constitutionally. Constitutionally, Honorable Speaker, the shareable revenue should form around not less than 15% of the revenues in the last audited, Honorable Speaker. As it is now before us, Honorable Speaker, we are now doing over 24% of the last audited revenues, Honorable Speaker, which is thus to show that this House supports devolution, as our brothers and sisters in the Senate also do. And that is why even when we met, there was no acrimony, because we all knew that the monies that are going to our counties are still going to serve the Kenyan people. The monies that are going to our constituencies also goes to serve the same Kenyan people. And therefore, there was no point of belaboring the point so deeply about who supports and who does not support devolution. All of us in this House have shown in the past, are showing now, that the National Assembly supports devolution. The Senate also in the Mediation Committee, Honorable Speaker, we were all reading from the same page that there is no contestation, Honorable Speaker, that we all support devolution, and that is why we were able to conclude this issue in a very amicable manner. Honorable Speaker, there was also another clause we had put in the initial report, that when there is a shortfall of revenue, that the national government and the county governments were to bear that shortfall, Honorable Speaker, in a manner that reflects their initial figures, what I would call proportionately. But, Honorable Speaker, after deliberations, there is something we have seen very consistent in this country, where the National Treasury sets targets, revenue targets. But for the last 10 years, Honorable Speaker, we have never, even 1 year, met our revenue targets. And we decided in the Mediation Committee that what we have been advising the National Treasury, even as a House, that they need to give projections of revenue that are in tandem with reality. Because there are ramifications of that. When you give a very high target, which then you don't end up meeting, what we end up doing by the close of the year is to enlarge the debt, or having so many projects unfunded by the lapse of the year on the 30th of June. It is the same reason, Honorable Speaker, that by the last financial year, the country was not able to fund projects worth Kenya shillings 218 billion shillings. And what we were only able to carry over as a country, Honorable Speaker, was only the 30 billion for counties, a little bit for CDF, and a little bit for pensions, which was just around 60 billion. All the other monies, Honorable Speaker, are projects, and especially developmental, that ended up unfunded by the lapse of the financial year. What we need to do to make a credible budget is to come up with revenue targets that reflect reality. And for that reason, Honorable Speaker, the Mediation Committee deleted that clause, that when there is a revenue shortfall, the people who set revenue are not the county governments. It is the National Treasury. And the National Treasury represents the executive or the national government, Honorable Speaker. And therefore, in our report, we have decided that the counties can no longer be able to carry a burden which they were not part of the creation. And therefore, when there is a shortfall in revenue targets, it is only the national government, as has always been there before, to carry the entire burden, because that burden cannot be carried by the county governments, because they are not even the authors of these revenue targets, Honorable Speaker. And this also makes our county assemblies to do budgets that are not moving targets. When we give them, Honorable Speaker, figures that may change, we are just basically telling our county assemblies to pass budgets that may actually not be fulfilled. And that is why we have decided to delete that clause, so that in case of a revenue shortfall, the National Treasury that actually sets those targets, Honorable Speaker, it is therefore, being a representation of the national government, it is the national government alone to carry the burden of revenue shortfall. Honorable Speaker, the other thing that I want to highlight is that besides this uh, uh, bill that is before us, before this motion that is before us, there is already another mediation, Honorable Speaker, which will actually...
The budget chair in the National Assembly has come out to give a very good speech in Parliament while he was debating on issues of money allocation and what has been happening in the last 10 years. It has come out very clear that indeed, for the last 10 years, the national government has been targeting revenues which are unattainable, and that ends up causing that there is no really money meant for the development. It's only for allocation for counties, salaries, debt, and pension. And that begs the question, how is this going to move on? Or will Kenya really get the chance to have enough resources to even allocate some of it to development? There have been very deliberating issues on counties and the National Assembly, especially on the revenue allocation formula, where that the counties are supposed to receive enough money early, but at the end of the day, you always see the governors complaining about revenue allocation, where even sometimes the national government takes a lot of time before they really disperse this money. Therefore, they are affecting performance or the workability of the counties. And even those are some of the issues which increase corruption in counties, because most of the time you find the salaries are delaying even for 3 months before people get their money. What can keep angry people from engaging in corruption? I really don't know. This man has been very vocal about good governance, and we saw him in another clip say that if the economy is very good, it is for the Kenyans to say, not for the government officials to be rolling on top of multi-million SUVs and saying that the economy is doing good, whereas things are going south or things are running bad in the economy.